Hello everyone. I hope that you will understand my dialect. The problem with the English language is that I have never lived in an English-speaking country, but I'm trying to learn by myself. On the other hand, when I'm trying to speak in a foreign language, everybody thinks that my accent is because of the fact that I'm a foreigner, which is true, by the way, but it's not the only reason. There is another reason for my strange accent, and that second reason is perhaps another peculiarity of mine, and because I have a huge disability, and the disability is the following one. I was born on December the 2nd, 1981. That means the same day and the same year as Britney Spears, and that's a huge liability or disability, I try to tell that joke to people who don't know me. When people are too curious, they are asking questions about me, and I don't want really to answer those questions. So I'm trying to tell a joke, and then the person in front of me stays on that joke, and the questions are over. But the problem is that some people are surprised. One American guy told me, "Oh, I didn't know that she was so old." But I have also learned that in many places on Earth, I just cannot tell that joke because people don't know Britney Spears. In Iran, for example, or in Yemen, people don't know Britney Spears. So they are very glad and happy people, So it can be. This morning, somebody said, one of the presenters, one of the speakers said that some people with autism are interested or fascinated by Justin Bieber. I was very disappointed. But we have some very important topics for this evening. I have heard that Mr. Trudeau wants to balance the public books in the coming 5 years. So that's a very nice idea. And I think we should help him. How we should help him? Well, perhaps autism may be the key, or one of the keys. Let me try to explain that point. So the point is the following one. Several years ago, I was actually a frequent traveler to one of the islands in the Caribbean Sea because of a project related to autism. And so I have quite lots of friends over there. And during one presentation related to autism, one of the mothers, she was in the room, and she suddenly said, "I'm so glad that my daughter lives with autism. Because with an autistic daughter, you don't have to worry about drugs and the rest." And I think she was right. She was very right. And she gave me many ideas for the small presentation or the small talk I will try to deliver. And the idea will be very simple. How to save money with autism. That's an important topic. We are in the middle of a deep crisis, so maybe autism can help us. Just as a small note, I don't want to hurt anyone. All what I will say is just for fun, It just, some people may sometimes are very sensitive and they feel hurt, and it's not the point. I mean, just take it as just fun. It's just fun. So how can we save money? And I advise every parent to have a child with autism, because children with autism can be much cheaper. Why? We will see that step by step. Now, first point, the hairdresser. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I've never been to the hairdresser in my life, never. I think that my parents have saved lots of money because of that. I have the distinct impression that some of my friends with autism are in the same situation. But, some of them made some progress. I think, for example, my dear friend Daniel Tammet, for example, he has learned to go to the hairdresser, but I'm still lagging behind, and I'm a very disappointing person. Well, but I'm saving money. That's an important aspect. So that's the first point. The second point is also we can save some money with makeup. Why? And there could be three reasons for that. The first reason is the most obvious one, because most of the people with autism are very shy and they don't want to buy, going into shops and all this. By the way, you probably have heard or read that piece of news. There will be shops for people with autism in England, Great Britain. You can find it quite easily on the internet. I think that's very interesting. Of course, they do that because of their business-related interest. It's not a charity, but nonetheless, if results are there, it's fine for me. So the first reason could be when we are too shy to buy this kind of stuff. The second reason could be because people with autism are not interested in those details. I really don't understand why people without autism, they don't want to become old, but in their professional life or in their career, they want to have senior positions. Do you know what senior means in Latin? It's the comparative form of senex. Senex means the old, and so senior means older than. So suddenly everybody wants to become old. I find that very fascinating. But people with autism have a different approach quite frequently. But there is the third reason, is the most important one. Because as you know, the face of people with autism doesn't move that much. So the face of people with autism can remain a bit younger. So you don't really need all those stuff or products or those creams, and that's, so it can sound as a joke, and it is a joke. It's not in the DSM-5, no. But nonetheless, sometimes during conferences or presentations, when I have a bit more time, I try to show pictures of my friends with autism, and I ask the audience to guess the age of those people. And most of the time, they underestimate the age by at least 10 years. That's interesting. I'm not a scientist. I cannot write research papers about that topic. But and I think that all that industry of makeup will hate me, but it's just a problem. Then we can also save money on clothes. Well, there are some teenagers, especially teenagers without autism, they want absolutely to have the same clothes as their neighbor, or as I don't know which kind of celebrity from Hollywood. I don't know anyone from Hollywood. I just know Britney Spears, and that's a bit limited knowledge, but at least one name is known to me. But I don't know how she is dressed or not, but as for me, I always have the same clothes. And that's, you can save lots of money with that. It was in the last century, my father found somewhere many pieces of clothes, and well, you have some of them in front of you today. They are nice, but no, my first employer was a blind person, and it can help a lot, sometimes. But we will talk about that a bit later. But I don't mean by saying that all people with autism look as badly dressed as me. It's not the case. Some people with autism are really, really good at fashion, but they are not interested for fashion of themselves. I mean, they are interested in fashion in general as a kind of art. And that's a very interesting point. Until maybe 10 years ago, I thought that fashion and autism were exactly the opposite, one of the other. But now I think maybe there could be similarities between fashion and autism. How did I change my mind? Because, well, I met some people with autism who worked as fashion designers. In the book, unfortunately, the book is only in French for the time being, about love. There is one of the characters is called Debbie. So it's a real person, like everybody in that book. And so Debbie worked for one of the most famous fashion companies in Paris 15 years ago. And she was the chief designer. And she was extremely successful because of her exceptional abilities. But unfortunately, she could not keep that job because her social abilities were very low, unfortunately. But she is an extraordinary person. She has an extreme sensitivity for colors. For example, about 1 week ago, I have shown her my shoes. You know, I have those shoes. They are the very cheapest one. And I asked her, give me the name of the color of my shoes. And instantly she gave me the name, the technical name of the color. And then I asked her if I want to associate that color with other colors, could you give me a list of other colors which are nice with that first color? Within 1 second, I had the complete list of all the names, of the technical names of the colors matching this one. And if I had a camera on YouTube, that would be a great video. But the best part about that is that she's absolutely not interested by being successful on YouTube. That's also a big difference between people with autism and without autism. And so also designer, for example, she designed, it's not her on the picture, she did only the clothes. And if you see, or if you look carefully at that picture, you can learn the whole history of the 20th century just by looking at that picture. Here you have 1900, then 1910, 1920, 1930, etc. And you can really learn the whole history with that picture. I think you maybe have heard about Howard Gardner and his theory of intelligence, multiple intelligences. And I think that that's exactly that. You can also learn history in a different way. And I think that people with autism can help us to design other ways of learning. It was just to show you this picture, and also because of another reason. Usually, when you speak about autism, you speak only about boys or men with autism, and that's a huge problem. It's so sad that women with autism are almost always forgotten. Recently, I was in France at a conference about jobs, employment for people with autism. And during that day, at least 5 or 6 times, somebody mentioned the field of fashion. And I found that great, that those skills, those exceptional skills are not forgotten or will not be forgotten in the future, just this small aspect. Then you can also save money with music or on music, because people with autism may absolutely be uninterested in music. So you will save money, and you will also save, problems with your neighbor. Because having a bad neighbor, I mean, that's not a blessing. Yeah. There was that famous Austrian writer, Franz Kafka. And by the way, I think that Kafka was also a person with autism. I could say many details about his life. And so Franz Kafka, once he said that the best neighbor is the one you never see. That means a neighbor with autism, basically, more or less. I don't know. It's just a bad joke. Then you can also save money on nightclubs. I've never been in my life in a nightclub. Because one of my friends told me that it's not a club with night inside. No, it's an extraordinary noisy place, and even quite rational people become mad, in there. And so you should avoid that place, and you will also save money. Of course, Brittany will not be happy to hear that, but I think she already has lots of money, so it's not my problem. Then you will also save lots of money on smoking. Very few people with autism smoke. And by the way, somebody raised that point this morning. I think maybe I don't have the real explanation, but I could have some ideas on that topic. I think there could be two reasons for that. The first reason is the hypersensitivity. Sensorial sensitivity of people with autism. The smell of smoke is very, very strong for people with autism. And I personally, it's very hard for me to be in a place where people smoke. I mean, they do what they want, of course, but I will not smoke with them. And the second point, maybe a bit different, could be usually the first time people smoke, they don't do it by themselves or alone. They are with friends, with bad friends, I could say. But teenagers with autism usually are completely alone. So they will never start smoking. That's a good point. I mean, no. But well, it's not the last point. There is also the same problem or same question with alcohol. I don't drink alcohol, and I have never tried in my life. It's a kind of trick to get Muslim friends. And unfortunately, it doesn't work so well, because many Muslim people, they drink actually alcohol. But in some places, when I was in Iran, I have spent quite a long time in Iran and in some neighboring countries. People were quite impressed by the fact, you see, there is a foreigner and he does not drink. Isn't that great? But anyway, first you will save money. Then second point is that also you will not have problems late at night when you are drunk in those nightclubs, because first of all, you will not be drunk, and second point, you will not go there, so it will be just fine. And I think, of course, there are exceptions. Of course, I know some people with autism who drink, but they are a tiny minority, I would say. Why? For the same reasons as previously said. There is frequently a huge problem with the scent of alcohol. And the second point is, again, you usually don't start drinking alone unless you really have a problem. But usually you start drinking with other people. But if you are completely alone during your teenage years, it will be fine. Some Muslims believe that I'm a very good Muslim, which I'm not. And some Buddhists believe that I'm a very good Buddhist, which I'm not. But if it helps in socializing, that's fine. I mean, then you also save money on other stuff. I don't know those names, so I will not mention them, but we are in the front of officials, so we have to be careful about what you say or not. But, anyway, you will save lots of money on this point also. You will also save on fine food. That's especially true in France. Some people, they give lots of money for fine food, and usually people with autism have one favorite meal or two favorite meals. As for me, when I was a child, maybe the only thing I could eat in a restaurant were spaghettis or pasta with sugar. And try to go to an Italian restaurant, probably in Italy it's even better, and try to order in an Italian restaurant spaghetti con zucchero. the moment you say that, it's like a nuclear bomb, you know. I have some very distinct memories from my childhood. But unfortunately, I could not eat anything else. But guess what? That meal is very cheap. So you can save money once again. But you will also save money on your car insurance. Did you know that the car insurance is free for many people with autism? And you don't have a car, if you can't drive a car, you don't need an insurance. That's my case. That's one of the reasons why I never go to the US, but there are also other reasons. But I mean related to my trips to Iran, Yemen, Iraq, and other places like that, you know, you have to be careful. And so another point where you can save money is related to what do you collect. Some people without autism, some wealthy people, they collect luxury cars, or they have luxury watches. As for me, I collect plastic water bottles. That's much cheaper. And now I have a very nice collection of water bottles from many countries. From Equatorial Guinea, I have many bottles from the Middle East. And yeah, my parents are not fine with that. Yeah, they are furious. But, well, you know, it's and everybody has to have a kind of secret passion or, well, but it's cheaper than, also, yeah, in shops, usually people with autism are less sensitive to ads, advertisement. People without autism, they are always attracted by this product. Oh, I need the new iPhone number 8 or whatever. No, advertisements are designed for people without autism. People with autism are usually much less sensitive, so they save money once again. It's very important. Yeah, that's another very important topic. Why, if you are a person with autism, or if you are a kind of institute for people with autism, you don't really need security. Why do I say that? Well, first of all, I don't know what a thief could take in my house, I mean the house of my parents. I don't know if thieves are interested in dictionaries of old Ethiopic language. Probably not. I don't have iPhones at home. And the second point, I was in France not a long time ago, and I was chatting with the director of an institute for people with autism. Unfortunately, there are many of them in France. I say unfortunately because the aim is to have a free life. I mean, not staying in a closed institute, but well, that's another point. And I have asked her, your institute is in a very unsafe district. Do you have any cameras or CCTV or whatever? And she told me, no, we don't need that. And so I asked her, why don't you need that? And she said, well, it's very simple. At the entrance on the door of the institute, I put a sign, here are autists. So any thief could start shaking and he will not attack that house. I mean, isn't that great? Sorry, but you can also save money on other aspects. I will try to say it quite quicker. Wedding is very expensive. Yeah, especially the dress is very expensive. I know that because the Debbie, my friend Debbie, actually does that for weddings, so I know the prices. So yeah, so you will save money, and you will also save even more money on divorce. Yeah, that's another aspect. Sorry. And yeah, there is a secret trick how to make money from dating sites. Make money, yes, I'm telling about making money. And I have made some money on one of those wedding sites or meeting sites because as that website was introduced on the stock exchange, I have bought 2 stock options, and then one day after that or 2 days after, I sold them. So I gained something like $3 or something like that. But so I'm one of the very few people who made money from dating sites. I think that's great. Well, I don't have time for that anecdote. Yes, about taxes. Our American friends are frequently scared when you say IRS. I think no, you're not, but Americans usually are. If you are a person with autism, you don't have to be scared, you know. The IRS cannot take you anything because if you don't have any incomes, well, you're fine. And just as I don't know if I can say that or not, it's maybe a bad joke, but it's a real story. You know, my dear friend, Daniel Tammet, maybe you know him, and he became quite rich. Well, he deserves it, but he's one of the very few people with autism I know who became quite rich, wealthy. And usually, when you become rich in France, you leave France, you go to another country. But when Daniel Tammet, he's British, but when Daniel Tammet became quite rich, he went to France. You know, some people are quite interesting or surprising, but just it's a bad story. Yes, you will also save lots of money. We are talking about millions now on mortgage. Well, that's a good piece of news for all the parents, because if you have a child with autism, you don't have to save money for his future house or her future house. He or she will stay with you for quite a long time. But, you know, and last but not least, you can also save not only money but also lives. How can you do that? It's very easy. Look at me. I don't have my driving license, so I have saved many lives, if you look on it that way. But and just I like that picture or that website. That will be the last, I think, picture I show. It's a website that's just interesting. You can find it on the internet. That's the Institute for the Study of the Neurologically Typical. Because we have talked about autism, let's talk about a very serious illness. I mean, non-autistic illnesses or we can discover that just by reading that small text, you know. So it's a neurobiological disorder. In France, some people believe that autism is because of the mother. So, well, non-autism could be also, If you have any problems in your life, you know the main culprit, that's your mother. Sorry, bad joke. So it's characterized by by preoccupation with social concerns. You know, I don't really like, or I don't read much fiction. But why I don't really like that? Because why should I read wrong of things that are not correct, not true? You know, fiction is about things that are not true, and that can be a problem. I mean, but well, if somebody gives me a book in that field, I will read it, and that's what happened. A friend of mine, she writes novels and other fiction, and she gave me her latest book, and I read it, and I was absolutely turtleneck pullover. So first of all, Wikipedia, what does that mean, turtleneck pullover? I did not know. Step number 2, how to say that in Old Ethiopic. Well, unfortunately, I did not find the translation. Step number 3, I think that I should recommend one point to that person. Don't suffer that much in your life. Have it easy. Become autistic. I think that that's the only way, I mean. We also have some delusions of superiority, or false beliefs, if you prefer, of superiority in politics. Yeah, some people really suffer from that. And believe me, for about 7 years, I have worked as a ghostwriter for politicians. You have to survive, so I did that. Yeah, sorry for that. And I have seen very interesting people with that kind of disability or illness. Yeah. Sometimes it's like in a kind of zoological garden, you have different species and you just look, and it's fascinating. Well, you also have obsessions with conformity. Again, that's the teenager without autism. He or she wants to have the same clothes as his neighbor or friend or whatever. If you are autistic, you usually don't have those problems. And just let's have a quick look on the right of the picture. How common is non-autism? It depends where you measure it. If you measure it in some startups in the Silicon Valley or in Israel, well, you will have maybe 30 or 50% of people with autism, especially in Israel in some of the high-tech related businesses. By the way, I could speak quite for a while about that topic, but that's not this evening, we don't have time. Are there treatments for people without autism? I don't know, some kinds of pills or whatever. It could be. After all, 99% of the population suffer from those illnesses. So it could be also a market for companies, no kind of pill to cure non-autism. And just the last point, what can you do if someone you know has non-autism or suffers from non-autistic disorders? And I think I can tell you one last story. So about 14 or 15 years ago, I did not have any kind of perspectives in my life. I was absolutely sure, as my parents were, that I would never have any kind of job. By the way, I have failed on all my job interviews. I've never succeeded or never passed a job interview. And what happened that, well, I'm the lucky one. All the time there was someone who gave me a job without a job interview. And the first person who gave me a job, well, that was a blind man from Algeria. And he was my boss for, say, 7 years. And we are still friends. But so the first point is that because he was blind, he did not see all my problems, and the clothes and the rest. And I think that people with disabilities can have a very different approach to life itself, and can be very open-minded. And the second point, that's the funny story, is the wife of a former prime minister of France. I cannot give you the name. I don't have money for my lawyer. I don't even have a lawyer, by the way. So I cannot say you the name, but she's the wife of a former prime minister of France. And so unfortunately, she suffers from depression, very serious depression. And from time to time, she calls those phone numbers, kind of hotlines, where you can get help when you are suicidal or very bad. And so on the other side of the phone, you have this person, blind person. He has to help the former second lady of France. And I think that's a very nice story. A disabled person maybe should try to help those people who suffer from not having a disability, because their lives are sometimes very sad. And my very last sentence could be a brief excerpt up from the Constitution of Switzerland. No, Switzerland is a very small country, but I like very much that sentence from the Constitution of Switzerland. Let's read it if you want. The last one is in English. The strength of a people is measured by the well-being of its weakest members. I think that sums up everything. Thank you so much.